I paid $85,000 for my daughter's wedding, and her husband said, "You embarrass this family." The sun used to hit the kitchen counter just right. It would make the dust motes dance in the air, little flecks of light in the quiet morning. I'd watch them sometimes, with my coffee steaming in my favorite mug, a little piece before the day started. That was my ritual. For years, decades even. Now the light still hits the counter, but the dust motes, they just look like dust. Nothing dancing, nothing alive. My name is Agnes. I'm 71 years old. I used to be a lot of things. A wife, a mother, a grandmother, a friend, a person who mattered. Now I'm mostly just Agnes, and tired, so very tired. It all started so simply. Most things do, I suppose. The little shifts, the tiny cracks in the foundation you ignore, because you're so busy admiring the house. My life. It felt solid, concrete, unshakable. I grew up in Ohio. Small town, nice people. Met Frank in high school. He was tall, kind eyes. Worked hard even then. We got married young, 22. I wore my mother's wedding dress. White lace. It felt like a promise. A binding. We didn't have much. Frank worked at the local plant. I worked part-time at the library. We saved. We planned. We dreamed. Simple dreams. A home. A family. Security. Then Emily came. Oh, Emily. She was everything. Tiny perfect hands. A smile that could melt the winter snow. I remember the first time I held her. That rush of fierce, protective love. It was like nothing I'd ever known. A part of my soul walked outside my body. From that moment on, everything I did, every choice, it was for her. Her future, her happiness. We bought our little house in the suburbs when Emily was 5. 3 bedrooms, a small yard, a dogwood tree out front that bloomed every spring. White petals like snow. Frank painted the kitchen yellow. It felt bright, hopeful. We hosted backyard barbecues, birthday parties, sleepovers. Emily's laughter echoed through those rooms. It was the soundtrack to my life. Frank wasn't a man of many words, but he was steady. A rock. He'd come home from work, kiss me on the cheek, ask about my day, play with Emily on the floor. He built her a treehouse out back when she was 10. It wasn't fancy, just some planks and nails, but it was her space, her kingdom. We sat on the porch swing sometimes, watching her play, talking about college funds, retirement, the small, ordinary magic of a life well lived. Emily was smart, straight A's. She wanted to go to college out of state, big university, somewhere with more opportunities, she said. Frank and I looked at each other. Tuition was steep. Our savings, it would sting. But how could we say no? It was her dream. So we tightened our belts. Frank took on extra shifts. I picked up more hours at the library. We sent her off with new luggage and a heart full of pride and a little ache of missing her already. She'd call every Sunday, tell us about her classes, her friends, her dreams. She majored in marketing, said she wanted to work in the city, the big city. She interned at a firm there her junior year. Loved it, the energy, the pace. She blossomed. She wasn't our small town girl anymore. She was sophisticated, ambitious. I liked that about her. I really did. It felt like all our sacrifices had been worth it. She was soaring. Then she met Mark. He was from a different world. At least that's how it felt to me. His family lived in a grand old house on the north side of the city. Old money, or at least, a lot of money. His father was a lawyer. His mother hosted charity galas. Mark himself was handsome, charismatic, a sharp dresser. He worked in finance. When Emily first brought him home for Thanksgiving, he was all smiles, all charm. He knew how to talk to people. He listened. He asked Frank about his work. He complimented my cooking. I remember feeling a little out of my depths, but happy, so happy for Emily. She deserved someone good, someone who would cherish her. Frank was quieter about Mark. After he left, Frank said, "He's smooth, Agnes, real smooth." I told Frank to stop being a cynic. Emily was happy. That was all that mattered. I wanted to believe it. I needed to believe it. They dated for 2 years. Then the engagement. Emily called us, her voice sparkling. She was getting married. I cried, happy tears. Frank smiled. He looked relieved. He liked Mark more by than I think. Or maybe he just liked that Emily was settling down. Then came the conversation about the wedding. Emily wanted a big one, a grand one. Mark's family, they had expectations. They expected a certain kind of wedding, a certain venue, a certain guest list. Emily came home one weekend. She had binders, Pinterest boards, spreadsheets. She sat me down at the kitchen table, the same table where she did her homework as a girl. Now she was talking about floral arrangements that cost more than my first car. She said, "Mom, Mark's family, they're very traditional. They want us to have a beautiful wedding. And Mark, he wants me to have the wedding of my dreams." Her eyes were wide, hopeful, almost pleading. Frank and I had saved for retirement. Not a fortune, but enough. We had a comfortable nest egg. The house was paid off. We had some investments. We weren't rich by any stretch, but we were secure. Frank had always been careful with money. He grew up during tough times. He knew the value of $1. I told Emily, "Sweetheart, that sounds wonderful, but a wedding like that, it's expensive." She looked down. "I know, Mom. Mark's parents, they're contributing a lot, but it's still a lot. And Mark, he really wants it to be perfect. For me, for our future." It hit me then, the subtle pressure, the implication, that this wedding, this grand affair, it wasn't just for her. It was a statement, a fusion of two families. And our family, we were the less grand one, the one that needed to measure up. I saw Frank looking at me, a slight frown on his face. He didn't say anything. Not then. I thought about it for days, for weeks. I couldn't sleep. I wanted Emily to have everything. Everything I didn't have. Everything she deserved. And Mark, he was a good man. He clearly loved her. This was her chance at a beautiful life. A life I helped build for her. I pulled Frank aside one evening. We were watching TV, some old movie. I paused it. "Frank, about the wedding." He looked at me, his expression already knowing. "Agnes, you're not thinking about touching our retirement, are you? It's Emily, our daughter. This is her big day. We can't let her down. Mark's family, they're putting in so much. We have to do our part." Frank sighed. He ran a hand over his thinning hair. "Agnes, we worked our whole lives for that money. What if something happens? What if we need it? Nothing's going to happen. We're healthy. We have the house. We'll be fine. And it's not all of it, just a portion, to help her have the wedding she deserves." He pushed back a little more. "How much are we talking about, Agnes?" I showed him Emily's spreadsheet. The column marked parents of the bride contribution. It was a big number. $85,000. My stomach clenched just looking at it. That was a down payment on a small house. That was years of careful saving. Frank went quiet, his jaw set. He looked at the paper, then at me. His eyes were sad, resigned. He knew, once I had an idea in my head, especially when it came to Emily, there was no changing it. "Agnes, you're sure about this?" he asked, his voice low, a tremor in it. I nodded. "Yes, I'm sure. It's for Emily." So we pulled it out. Our bank account looked significantly lighter. I felt a pang of anxiety, but also a thrill, a sense of purpose. I was doing this for her. For Emily, it was an act of love, a final grand gesture, as her mother, to launch her into her beautiful new life. The wedding day arrived. It was magnificent, held at a historic estate just outside the city. Manicured lawns, a grand ballroom, hundreds of guests. Emily looked breathtaking in her white gown, like a princess. Mark stood beside her, handsome in his tuxedo. They looked perfect together, a storybook couple. I walked down the aisle with Frank. My dress was new, navy blue lace. I felt proud, a little out of place maybe, but proud. I saw Mark's mother across the aisle. She smiled politely, a cool, distant smile. During the reception, I watched Emily dance with Mark. I watched her laugh with her friends. I saw her beaming face, and I thought, yes, this was worth it. Every penny, every sacrifice. She was happy, truly happy. Mark came over to our table at one point. He put an arm around Emily. He clapped Frank on the shoulder. "Thank you, Agnes. Frank, for everything. It's truly the most beautiful day." He had that charming smile, that practiced ease. I felt a warmth spread through me, like I was part of their world, like I belonged. After the wedding, life settled back into a different rhythm. Emily and Mark went on a luxurious honeymoon. When they came back, they moved into a gorgeous brownstone apartment Mark's parents helped them purchase. It was beautiful, all modern design, glass and steel and expensive art. So different from our cozy suburban home. Emily called less often. She was busy, with her new job, with her new life, with Mark's busy social calendar. I understood. I really did. She was a grown woman now, building her own family. Frank and I, we tried to get used to our lighter bank account. We cut back a little here, a little there. Frank worried. I told him we'd manage. We always had. We always would. Then the grandchildren started to arrive. First Lucas, then Olivia. Oh, the joy. That primal rush of love. All over again. Emily asked me to babysit often, especially when they were little. Mark was busy. Emily was busy. I loved it. I would drive an hour into the city, stay for days sometimes, change diapers, read stories, push swings in the park. It was exhausting, but it was pure happiness. I was needed. I was loved. My grandkids, they were the light, but I started to notice things. Small things. When I was there, I often felt like an extra piece of furniture. Emily would be on her phone. Mark would come home, barely acknowledge me, just a quick nod. Sometimes he'd tell me, "Agnes, the kids need to be in bed by 8. No exceptions." Or, "Agnes, did you remember to get the organic milk?" His tone was always polite, but it felt like instructions, not requests, and sometimes I felt a flicker of annoyance, but I pushed it down. He was just particular, a good father. One time, I was washing dishes after dinner at their place, just helping out, and I heard Mark talking to Emily in the next room. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but the door was ajar, and his voice was sharp. "Emily, I really wish your mother wouldn't leave her things all over the counter. It makes the apartment look messy. Our cleaner comes tomorrow." Emily's voice, soft. "She's just trying to help, honey." "I know, but she needs to understand this isn't her house. We have a certain standard." I froze, my hands in the soapy water. My face felt hot. My things. My purse was on a chair, my small travel bag by the door. I had put my coffee cup on the counter this morning. I felt a prickle of shame, like I was a guest who had overstayed her welcome. I dried my hands quickly, gathered my things, and told Emily I needed to head home. She looked surprised. "So soon, Mom?" I just said I was tired. Frank saw it too, the gradual pulling away, the increasing demands, the subtle disrespect. He started to complain more. "Agnes, they treat you like free help, and you let them. They are my grandchildren, Frank. I want to be there for them. And what about us? We barely see them anymore. They don't come here." It was true. They always had an excuse. Too busy. Traffic was too bad. The kids had school. It was always easier for me to go to them. I drove that hour journey countless times. Then the financial requests started again. Not directly from Emily at first, but from Mark. He called Frank one day. Frank was retired by then, living off our diminished savings. Mark said he had an amazing investment opportunity, something exclusive, high returns. He just needed a little capital. Could Frank and Agnes help them out? Just a temporary loan. It would be a sure thing. Frank came to me, his face etched with worry. "Agnes, we can't. We really can't. That's all we have left." I hesitated, but then I thought about Emily and the children. Mark was trying to build their future. He was ambitious. Maybe this was a real opportunity, and it was just a loan. He said he'd pay us back with interest. "How much does he need?" I asked. Frank looked at the note he'd scribbled. 50,000. He said, "Just for a few months." 50,000. It was a staggering amount. More than our car was worth. More than many people made in a year. But I thought of Emily's beaming face on her wedding day. I thought of Lucas and Olivia's sweet smiles. I wanted to help them. I wanted them to succeed. I wanted to be a part of their beautiful life. So we sent it. Again. Our savings account was practically empty. Frank was silent for days after that. He stopped talking about retirement. He just looked at the numbers on the statements and sighed. A few months passed. The money didn't come back. Mark said there were delays, market fluctuations. He was apologetic. He promised it was still a solid investment, just needed more time. Then another request. This time it was Emily. Her voice was strained on the phone. "Mom, we're in a bit of a bind. Mark's firm, they're having a tough quarter. And our mortgage, it's a huge payment. Could you help us out? Just until Mark gets his bonus next month. A small amount, 10,000. My heart sank. 10,000. We barely had that left. I looked around our small, modest home. The yellow kitchen, the dogwood tree. This was our security, our anchor, and it was being chipped away, piece by piece. But it was Emily, my daughter, my flesh and blood. She sounded distressed, and it was only for a month. A loan. I convinced Frank. Reluctantly, we sent it. The months turned into a year. The loans were never repaid. Mark stopped talking about the investment. He just avoided the subject. Emily would say, "Mom, we're so grateful. We'll pay you back as soon as we can." But the words felt hollow, like an automatic response. Our phone calls became less frequent. My visits became less welcome. I'd show up with groceries, or with clothes I'd mended for the kids, or with a pie I'd baked, and I'd feel a coolness, a distance, like I was interrupting their perfect life. One particularly bad day, I had driven all the way into the city, 2 hours in traffic, to take Olivia to her doctor's appointment. Emily had a work emergency. Mark had a client meeting. Of course, I sat in the waiting room for an hour with a fussy 3-year-old, then another hour in the exam room. Olivia was crying. I was exhausted. When I finally got back to their apartment, Emily was home. She looked flustered. Mark was on the couch, on his phone. He barely looked up. I handed Emily the doctor's notes. She's fine, just a little cold. Nothing serious. Emily took the paper, distracted. Thanks, Mom. I really appreciate it. I was just about to sit down, to catch my breath. Mark cleared his throat. He didn't look up from his phone. His voice was casual, almost bored. Agnes, you know the sitter we usually use. She's out of town next week. The kids have their school break. Emily and I are going to Miami for a few days. Would you mind staying at the apartment, just for the week, to watch Lucas and Olivia? My jaw dropped. Miami. They were going on a trip, and they were just telling me now, expecting me to drop everything. For free, after all I had given them, all I continued to give them. My time, my dwindling money, my energy. I felt a surge of something I hadn't felt in a long time. Anger, righteous anger. Mark, that's next week. I already have plans. I can't just drop everything, and I'm exhausted. I just spent 4 hours at the doctor's with Olivia. He finally looked up. His eyes were cold. His mouth was a thin line. He put his phone down. Slowly, deliberately. Agnes, we're family. Family helps each other. Emily and I, we're under a lot of stress right now. We need this break. And frankly, we can't afford a sitter for a whole week right now. Not after, well, you know, all the expenses. He paused, a subtle, pointed pause, an implication that I was the expense, that my presence, my gifts, were a burden. Emily was standing there, silent, looking at the floor, not meeting my eyes. The anger turned to a deep, burning hurt. My own daughter, standing there, letting her husband talk to me like this, like I was a commodity, a service, a free resource. I looked at Emily. Emily, are you serious? You're asking me to drop my life, again, and your husband is telling me I'm an expense. My voice cracked. Emily finally looked up. Her eyes were red. She looked tired. Mom, please, don't make this difficult. We just need your help. Don't make this difficult. That was it. That was the phrase. It was always on me. To be accommodating. To be quiet. To be grateful. To be invisible. I took a deep breath. My chest felt tight, like a vise. You know what, Mark? Emily, I'm going home. Mark scoffed, a small, dismissive sound. He picked up his phone again. Fine, if that's how you want to be. That's how I want to be. The words echoed in my head as I walked out of their expensive apartment. As I got into my old car, the engine humming a sad tune, I drove home in a daze. The anger had faded, replaced by a cold, aching emptiness. Frank was waiting for me. He saw my face. He didn't ask. He just put his arm around me. And for a moment, just a moment, I felt a sliver of comfort. But that comfort, it didn't last. Not really. The next morning, Emily called, not to apologize, but to double down. Mom, Mark is really upset. You can't just walk out like that. We really needed you. And now, we have to scramble to find someone for the kids. It's not fair to us. Her voice was cold, indignant, like I was the one who had wronged them. Emily, I'm your mother, not your free babysitter, not your ATM. I gave you everything, everything, and this is how you treat me. There was a silence on the other end, a long, heavy silence. Then Emily's voice, harder now, colder. You know what, Mom? Maybe you should just stay home. For a while, we'll call you. She hung up. I stood there, the phone still pressed to my ear. The dial tone, a flat, indifferent hum. Stay home. For a while, we'll call you. A month passed. No calls. 2 months. Nothing. I tried calling Emily. Voicemail. I left messages. Sweet ones. Concerned ones. Then pleading ones. Then angry ones. No response. I tried calling Mark. His number was blocked. Frank tried too. He was just as baffled. Just as hurt. He finally got through to Mark's office. Mark's assistant told him Mark was busy. He'd pass on the message. Mark never called back. Then one day, I was at the grocery store, just picking up some milk, and I saw Emily, with Lucas and Olivia. They were walking down an aisle, laughing, holding her hands. My grandchildren, my beautiful grandchildren. My heart leaped. I wanted to run to them, to hug them, to tell them how much I miss them. But something stopped me, a knot in my stomach, a sense of dread. Emily saw me. Her eyes widened, a flicker of something. Surprise, guilt, annoyance. I couldn't tell. She grabbed the children's hands. Harder. She turned her cart, and she walked the other way, down a different aisle, away from me, like I was a stranger, like I was someone she didn't want to see, someone she was ashamed of. I stood there, frozen, my grocery cart forgotten, the fluorescent lights of the store. They felt too bright, too harsh. My vision blurred. I felt tears welling up, hot tears, but I wouldn't let them fall. Not there, not in public. I turned around, walked out of the store, left my milk, left my groceries. I got into my car, and I drove. I drove and I drove, until I was on a country road, somewhere I didn't know, and I pulled over, and I sobbed. I sobbed until my throat was raw, until my chest hurt, until I thought there was no more left inside me. I called Frank, my voice a whisper. She just walked away, like I was nothing. Frank was quiet on the other end. I could hear the pain in his voice too. Agnes, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. That's when it hit me, the real, crushing weight of it all. It wasn't just the money. It was the love, the years, the sacrifice, the entire foundation of my motherhood, tossed aside, like trash. The next time I tried to reach them, the phone numbers were disconnected. All of them. Emily's cell, Mark's cell, their landline, gone, their social media pages, blocked. I was completely cut off. I felt like I was losing my mind. My daughter, my grandchildren, vanished from my life, like I had never existed. Frank tried to get legal help. He called a lawyer. The lawyer listened patiently. He shook his head. Mr. Thompson, Mrs. Thompson, unless you had a formal loan agreement with Mark, with interest rates, with repayment terms, it's considered a gift, especially from a parent to a child. You have no legal recourse to get it back. A gift, $85,000 for a wedding, then $50,000, then $10,000. All gifts, my life savings, my retirement, all gone. For nothing, for a daughter who erased me, for a son-in-law who despised me. Frank slumped in his chair, the light in his eyes. It was gone. He looked older than his years. The betrayal, it broke him. He became quiet, distant. He would sit in his armchair, staring into space, the television playing, but he wasn't watching it. He was just existing. I tried to keep our spirits up. I cooked his favorite meals. I tried to talk to him about our old days, about our memories, but he just nodded or gave short answers. He blamed himself for letting me give the money, for not stopping me. I blamed myself too, for being so naive, so blind, so desperate for my daughter's love. The silence in our house, it became deafening. The phone never rang. The doorbell never chimed. Holidays, they were the worst. Thanksgiving, Christmas, just the two of us. An empty table, an empty house, the ghosts of laughter, the memories of bustling family gatherings. They haunted every corner. Frank got sick. It started small. A cough, then a persistent ache, then fatigue. I took him to the doctor. They ran tests. The news, it was bad. Lung cancer, aggressive. He wasted away quickly. In the hospital bed, he looked so small, so fragile. I sat by his side, holding his hand, talking to him, telling him I loved him. He barely responded, just a flicker of his eyes, a weak squeeze of my hand. One day, he looked at me, his voice a raspy whisper. Agnes, our money, it's gone. You should have listened to me. Those were his last words to me, my husband of almost 50 years. Not a word of love, not a memory of our life together, just a dying regret about the money Emily and Mark had taken. It had eaten away at him, at us. It had destroyed everything. He passed away 2 days later, quietly, alone, except for me. I held his hand as his breathing stopped. The room was cold, the air still. I felt like half of me had been ripped away. The other half, it felt like it had been ripped away long ago. By Emily, after Frank's funeral, which was sparsely attended. Just a few old friends. No Emily, no Mark, no Lucas, no Olivia. I came home to an empty house, a house that felt hollow. It was too big for me, too full of memories, too silent. I had to sell it. The market was tough. I didn't get what it was worth. Not really, but I needed the money. For the funeral expenses, for my own future, my very uncertain future. I moved into a small apartment, 1 bedroom. It's clean, it's quiet, too quiet. I spend my days trying to fill the silence. I read. I watch old movies. I try to walk. My knees aren't what they used to be. Sometimes, I go to the local coffee shop. I just sit there, sipping my lukewarm coffee, watching people, families laughing, grandmothers holding their grandchildren's hands, and a sharp pain stabs through me, a pain so profound, so deep, it makes it hard to breathe. I often think about Emily, About Mark, about Lucas and Olivia. I wonder what they're doing. If they ever think of me, if they ever regret what they did, if they ever feel even a sliver of shame. I doubt it. I truly doubt it. They've moved on to their perfect life, their grand life, a life built on the bones of mine. I look in the mirror sometimes. I see an old woman, lines etched around her eyes, her mouth, a weariness in her gaze, a sadness that seems to have settled deep into her bones. I used to be a vibrant woman, full of life, full of purpose. Now I'm just a shadow. I still have that old mug, the one I used to drink my coffee from. It's chipped now, a faint crack running down its side. I hold it sometimes, and I remember the sun dancing in the dust motes, the laughter, the love, the simple dream that turned into a nightmare. I remember all I gave, and all that was taken, and all that was said. You embarrass this family. Those words, they echo in my head every single day, louder than any silence, louder than any memory, louder than any hope. They are my constant companion, and they will be until the day I die.